actually dig into some hands-on stuff with hybrid models and AnyLogic. How do we combine these models? You've seen a little bit of the flavor of each approach. How do we combine them? Maybe I'll just say one thing, maybe two things to sort of cap my comments. Number one, I don't think myself or many other people in the world have really codified the full set of trade-offs and motivations for using when to use one approach or the other. We can't comfortably and crisply give a map and says, if your problem is has this exact set of features, you should use this approach versus this other approach. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the issues have to do with a diversity of different considerations, from available skill sets to issues of the role of stakeholders to issues having to do with sort of the textured feature of the processes you're trying to depict. And I think there's an ongoing, I try in open and pluralistic fashion, but you should realize it is an area where there's vested interest. There's people trying to push certain types of modeling because, well, for many reasons. And so it's an area that, when you approach the trade-offs, be sure to speak to people who have actually applied themselves several approaches. Don't go to someone who does only one approach and listen and let them tell you about why that's the best approach. Talk to someone who spent years applying several different approaches in textured situations to really get a sense of the trade-offs. That's very important. Things between the methods are more inherent or more fundamental, and I think some of them are largely historic. And you'll see cases from what we've contributed to literature where we try to fertilize ideas in one area from ideas in the other. Much of our work, we have our own agent-based modeling language, which we're exploring with, and peripherally it's something related to Priestley's work, and increasingly it may be quite central to our work, the way in which it contributes to that. That draws on ideas from system dynamics visualization. I think system dynamics is amazing use of declarative methods. The ability to specify the what of a model and hide the how. It's really impressive. You can go in and sketch out a system dynamics model with doing none of what would traditionally be called programming. That's very powerful, and we're applying similar principles. But similarly, in agent-based modeling, I see no reason why you can't do agent-based modeling with visual diagrams and so on. We've routinely engaged with our stakeholder teams and found a lot of understanding and a lot of that they can elicit feedback and suggestions and so on, much as a causal loop diagram would, or a stock and flow diagram in system dynamics. It would not be helpful to go to the head of TB control with page after page of repassed code, and ask them to look at this Java code. That would not be a fruitful exercise. But going with declaratively specified model components and using it to talk with those stakeholders is perfectly viable. And I see no reason why agent-based models couldn't be conceptually as simple as a system dynamics model and be fruitful for discussion with these stakeholders. So if your goal is to shift mental models to stakeholders, well, that's traditionally been a big goal emphasized in system dynamics. I don't see why it couldn't be undertaken with simpler agent-based models. So be aware there are certain trade-offs that apply right now that are more superficial and more big happen concerned, and certain ones that are more fundamental. And I think a lot of what will be going on over the next 10, 15 years will be a cross-fertilization and really sorting out what the essential features are and of the situation. The book is not closed. In fact, we've barely begun the book as far as I'm concerned. And I think the next 10, 15 years is going to be a point of a lot of learning empirically and sort of thinking through what are our priorities when it comes to modeling. I do feel that all three approaches have as much in common as they have in differences, if not much more in common. They're dynamic modeling approaches, and they share a tremendous amount of common motivation and common basic ideas behind them. It behooves us to not be overly exclusive as to what approach we use. It behooves us to recognize this landscape is shifting. It's going to be shifting for many years, and if you can be conversant at least with several techniques, it'll put you in good stead. Okay, and one of the motivators for that is the capacity of models. So that is our